Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Last time this chart crashed, alt pumped 700%. In today's video, I want to answer that question. When will this time come? You'll also need some patience for this signal to occur. And of course, we need to unpack what's happened in the stock markets and of course the real estate cycle overnight, as we've seen some of the stock markets push to new all-time high prices after a significant drawdown, stuff that we haven't seen in several years. So without further ado, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Each of the day's analysis builds upon the previous day, and of course we are unpacking the 18.6 year cycle as it leads into its final peak before that inevitable collapse. On the channel, we cover Bitcoin, cryptos, the stock markets, and the real estate cycle. I've been investing for over 18 years, which I need to update on my channel here. Trading since 2010 in the traditional markets, and then found Bitcoin cryptos in 2017. So we've had a lot of time here on the channel to go through the charts, and you've got plenty of videos to watch. Now, before we kick it off, link in the top of the video description is for TIA Premium. There is a Christmas sale happening this week. So make sure you are subscribed to the email list right here, and you guys will be notified when that comes out in the next few days. Okay, agenda similar to yesterday. However, we have a few charts that I want to update us with and dive a little deeper into. Of course, Bitcoin, talked about the Christmas sale, the stock markets and the real estate cycle, and then the beloved altcoins and BTC. Starting off with the macro cycle here. You guys have seen it. Here is the top. Here is the winner's curse. For the last 12 years, I've been following this cycle, and it has been on point every step of the way. And at the moment, I don't see any signs of it changing. We're in the middle here, leading up. The yellow circle changes every 3 or so months because you are in a 14-year cycle, and I've had to squeeze it, compact it all onto one small chart here. So the final roughly 2 years of the market are basically where we're at, and prices continue to go up. We continue to see higher and higher prices. Those higher and higher prices are for traditional markets. As this cycle is about, it's for US real estate and the economy. Some thought the economy was bad, some think it's good. The fact of the matter is the stock markets are going up, and the investors who are buying up stocks are still seeing the economy in a healthy position. When they don't, that's when you start to see significant corrections, big corrections on the way down. If we're in big corrections on the way down, my personal view, and you can have a different one, of course, it's the market, free markets out there. My personal view is you won't see Bitcoin and cryptos taking off like we are in this current bull market. Winner's curse phase, things are going up. So that's the general theory here on the channel. If in case you are sort of just joining, that's the basic theory, that everything needs to be going up in order for the rest of the money out there to come piling into Bitcoin and cryptos, and then you start to see it take off in the narratives. You know, we've seen a lot of narratives around Bitcoin and cryptos lately, especially recently with Trump considering Bitcoin as part of the strategic reserve for the US. Now, the cycles for the Dow Jones in 2025 are rather bullish. However, that's not going to stop us from analyzing the markets on a day-to-day basis. Of course, anything can change. And we've seen 8 straight days down. No matter which way you look at it, you've got lower highs, lower lows on each of those days. So some people like to just look at things as red or green, basically where the close was for the day. Did it close higher? The way I like to look at it as well, and most importantly, are the high and low prices for the day. And for each of those days, you've seen lower highs and lower lows. Now, this particular piece of data is very rare. You very rarely see 8 days down in a row while it's above the 200-day moving average. So it's thanks to X over here, Subi Trade on X. I've just had to zoom in because it's quite small. The last time we saw this was 2018, then 2017, then the 1980s, 60s, 50s, and the beloved 1929, basically running up into that final peak. Now, we've seen it come up yesterday. It's when the signal occurred, but there's not such bad news, at least in the short term. I like to look 6 to 12 months out. 1, 2, 3, at least let's use 3 for now. There's a 100% hit rate out of the several times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times we've seen this over the last 95 years. And each of those times has been positive, and it's been positive by roughly 6.6%. So going forwards 3 months from now for the Dow Jones in this case, there would expect to be a positive result. You could say the median is 6.6. You could get into some sort of average, but essentially we're looking for a positive result at the end of March, even if there is a correction coming in Q1. So say the market moves up and sort of keeps going into January and then starts to pull back all the way into March, because that's 3 months from now, middle of March. The data suggests that you would see a positive result there. Why is that important for everything else that we're looking at? Well, we are still looking for the continuation of the bull market so that there's more money flowing back into Bitcoin and cryptos. People get excited at these stages. That's what the winner's curse is about. The curse is that everyone is winning and they think that they are traders and basically they'll make gains forever, right? We saw it in 2021 for the stock markets and for Bitcoin and cryptos. Everyone thought they were magnificent traders. And of course, 2022 happens, big crash, everyone gets wiped out. That's the most recent example. You can go back to 2017 for altcoins. Everyone thinks they're a fantastic trader. And then the same thing happens again in 2018. Everyone gets washed out. So that's where we currently sit. But this time it's for everything: real estate, stock markets, and of course, Bitcoin and cryptos. And just with the next open for today here at Tuesday, Monday was a slight day up, but Tuesday has opened very high, massive gap up here for the S&P 500. E-mini futures, the NASDAQ has also opened up very high after yesterday putting in a new all-time high on the back of actually Tesla putting in a new all-time high. Very, very big move up. Apple has also pushed higher, putting in a new all-time high. Amazon was also up and it also put in a new all-time high. Google also put in a new all-time high. However, it did close slightly lower than the others. Facebook, $624. Did not put in a new all-time high, but it's trading around all-time high figures. Microsoft, not a new all-time high, but it's also up again, getting very close to the previous all-time high. And the little laggard here, which was basically the leader for a long time, is Nvidia, which is now just pushed down a little to around 132. So overall, these top tech stocks are really putting in fresh high prices, and you're seeing that across the board with the stock markets themselves pushing into new all-time high prices, which is part of the winner's curse. We're seeing more and more go up. So with the review of the traditional markets, everything is still looking somewhat healthy. I mean, the prices keep going up. We haven't seen any signs of corrections yet. So just keep riding with the trend. As we've discussed a couple of times now in the last few videos, more money has been lost by investors preparing for corrections or trying to anticipate them than has been lost in the corrections themselves. So if you keep trying to anticipate that this is going to crash, there is more chance you're going to lose more money in that sense rather than just sort of riding the trend. The trend can keep going, and it's been pretty damn significant over the last couple of times. 8 quarters here, 10 quarters here, 11 quarters in a row with 60% gains, 120%, 88%. We're only at sort of 48% at the moment before there's any sort of correction like the last times there. You're still lower than those other ones. So as it suggests, just keep riding with the trend. So over to some Bitcoin crypto updates. The big one that I saw yesterday was MicroStrategy, after everyone getting super excited about the strategic reserve coming out for, the consideration by the Trump administration for the Bitcoin strategic reserve. Obviously, MicroStrategy is the big talk of the town. Now, I'm on a daily chart here. So each of these bars are daily, whereas what you just saw was a 3-month bar. So one of those bars takes 90 days, at least 90 days to play out there. This one, just 1 day. And the reason why I emphasize that is that in the course of that one single day, the amount of excitement, and we had new all-time highs for Bitcoin hitting $107,800. MicroStrategy was a huge, huge talk. It was basically plastered everywhere on X. Anywhere you look on X, it was just about MicroStrategy and how things were going to go to, well, in this case, $1,000, etc., etc. Now, in terms of the price action after such a big news day, you had a lower close. So it's just something to keep in mind moving forward. The trends are still up. You got higher lows forming. And then once you can break past 450, you're going to have higher highs forming as well. However, something that we have covered on the channel previously is the previous cycle for MicroStrategy. February was the top in price, February 2021, whereas Bitcoin topped out in November. So you had lower highs forming for MicroStrategy when Bitcoin was putting in slightly higher highs, and then obviously everything collapsed together. Fantastic, phenomenal results, 4,000% returns from the lows. But I would just say if you're into MicroStrategy or thinking about it, just keep an eye on the prices here. You need to close above roughly $450 in order to keep the trend moving to the upside after such a very, very significant move already into that top. So that takes us over to MicroStrategy. And this is probably one of the best things that you can view here in terms of how not to position your own portfolios. Let's leave it at that. Now, these are all the purchases that Michael Saylor has made with USD, but for Bitcoin, and you can see him in the green dots. And the dotted green line is his average price continues to increase, which isn't great, but I mean, that's, if you keep buying, that's what's going to happen. The best thing to do is buy as much as you can at the lows. And that's what we go through in great detail with TIA Premium, like looking at these low periods. When everyone else is very, very fearful, that's the time to be looking at it. In particular, I remember March 2023, people were so scared here at this low because it was the banking crisis. But that was a fantastic time to keep buying more. And we cover that week after week after week on our live stream. So if you want to be a part of that and learn more about it through booms and busts in the cycles, whether it's cryptos, stock markets, real estate, check out the Christmas sale that is coming up this week. As I said, link in the top of the video description, and you'll be on board with us very, very soon. But this one here is a fantastic chart to look at. You can see his purchases sized in dollars or sized in Bitcoin. And when you look at it sized in dollars, you can see that he's purchasing way more at the tops than he does at the lows. Now, I wouldn't say that's a problem of his. Saylor would, well, it is a problem, but Saylor would purchase as much as he could, I reckon, all the way along if he could basically keep buying it. But he's getting other people's money on board, and it's way easier to get other people's money when the price is up. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. Maybe you're only thinking about buying Bitcoin when it broke past $74,000 or once it started to hit $100,000, but weren't interested when it was back at $15,000 or $20,000 or even $30,000. And this is represented in these circles. So that's the size in dollars of when or how much dollars he was buying of BTC, which causes the average price to go up. And so as that average price continues to go up, and I dare say he's going to keep buying in bigger and bigger amounts on the way up because more people become interested and they think the cycle will never end, then you're going to get this average price that keeps going up. Now, if it's somewhat leveraged and the market moves down, that's when things start to get into trouble. So keep a lookout for that. We'll keep watching on this particular chart here. I think it's pretty great to watch and see what's invested there, $46 billion. So if we keep seeing bigger and bigger purchases of Bitcoin on the way up, that to me at least is another signal that tops are starting to roll in because more people become more and more interested around the peaks compared to where you were at around the lows. Over to the Bitcoin price, and obviously the last 24 hours we've seen higher prices, so really not much else to add here in terms of the analysis. The next targets to the upside were roughly around that 120,000, 123,000 as we looked at in yesterday's video. Where we got that from were the weekly ranges, and this basically pattern that had played out, the pump and the grind, and looking towards that next pump. This was the extension that we're looking at, the lows to the high, back down to the low. It's been passed there, and 150% comes in at around $122,000. So let's look to around that 120K and whether that's able to get there or fall slightly short, because a lot of people are looking at around 120 as that next, I guess, psychological level, because now that we're past 100K, you can't really look towards 200K. There's got to be a few areas along the way, and 110 doesn't seem to come up a lot for many people, but 120 keeps coming up. USDT dominance has been a fantastic chart to follow for the altcoin season, or whether that's going to play out or if people are taking profits. Yesterday, another day down, tested 3.8%. This is the key level here, 3.8% for a breakdown, and alts and Bitcoin to go absolutely bananas after that point. But again, it holds out just above that level. Similar to what we had seen previously going back to March 2024, but more similarly was back at the previous peak in 2021. And this sort of dance lasted about 4 months. And the dance that I'm referring to is straight after the altcoins had pumped a lot, and then you had some rotation from alts into Bitcoin, Bitcoin into alts, and Bitcoin was basically, I guess, pausing at this time. It was just playing around that $40, $50, $60,000. Meanwhile, one sector of alts were pumping, the next sector, and it just kept rinsing and repeating. And then you also had ETH do its final dance in early May before you get that really, really big collapse of over 50%. So if we're in the midst of that pattern again, watch out for these lows not getting lower than each other. And I've got the diagonal on here now for us. If that happens to play out and then break back above, that could be that next signal that we're not going to see that alt season. However, I have talked to you about alt season, and when this chart had crashed, we saw that alt pump. So this is sort of preparing, which, as I've said here, you don't want to play only on the preparation, but it's to be aware that there can be those times. So this would be the pattern that plays out. That would then tell us, well, the alt season isn't on. So I like to prepare us, keep that level head. However, let's go a little bit more degenerate with the hopium here, and the crash that we saw before the altcoin market, the true altcoin market cap, took off 775%, basically your 8x there, and a little more to the upside, which then resulted in another pretty significant crash. In terms of the timing and the dates, you can see here we're middle of December, and that's basically middle of December. That little correction doesn't look like much there on the chart. And in terms of dollars themselves, you can see from the top down to those lows is about 30% in dollars. So 134 billion down to about 95 billion. But where it does hit home is the alt versus BTC chart. And not to get too concerned unless you see it break down further. So in this case, I'm just using SOL versus BTC. It's failed multiple times at the 50% level and is now going on a move to the downside. The 50% level underneath, so this is for the entire range now, low to high, basically the bull market range, sits at 0.0018. Now it's done 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, with that week being an up week, so 4 weeks to the downside. However, as I talked about, last time these sort of crashes happened, the altcoin market boomed to the upside after that, leading into that May top. So from the low to the high, in the case of SOL, it was 2,900%, so a 30x from that low. And I was just keeping it conservative, looking at the total 3 market cap, but this is within dollars, okay? So SOL BTC, as I'm measuring here, it went up 30x versus BTC, which means Bitcoin was also going up that time, which means SOL USD was going up a lot more. So it had a bigger return in that sense. So I'm just looking at a few of the dates now. So we've uncovered that there is a correction going on with alts against their Bitcoin pair. That's likely due to Bitcoin going up. We're seeing all-time high prices. There's more and more interest for BTC. And then when we look at the US dominance chart, USDT dominance chart, you can see there could be some sort of rotation going on here that was similar to the previous cycles. However, there were still altcoins moving, and then you also got the bombastic, is that a word? Big move to the upside. So how long does this last, and what can you do about it? Well, the previous, you got roughly 16 weeks from that top to that final low, and then the move out was about 9 weeks to the top, a correction, and then another move to the upside, which lasted all the way to May, which is around 21 weeks. So you had about a 16-week, 4 months down, 5 months up, and then another few months down before you had that final run to the upside. And the whole idea of the game is to make more gains than BTC. That's this stage of the game. Try to beat Bitcoin. Otherwise, you're better off just holding Bitcoin and making your life easier. That's pretty much what the next stage is about. If you're not going to outperform Bitcoin, then just sit in Bitcoin and go and do something else with your life rather than sit in front of the computer and try and beat the market. Most people can't beat the market, and so it's just easier to take the, I guess, for crypto's sake, less risky option and do something more productive with your time. So looking at the Bitcoin dominance now and the correction from those alt spaces or the alt seasons last time, you can see we've got this first move down, which could be lining up similarly to what happened in 2020 and 2021. And in terms of those timings, again, you can see there's just bounced around for about 60 days. So I've got the measurement here, hit that first point, and then it was basically a slow grind down, slow grind down, slow grind, slow grind, and then you had the breakdown. So about 66, 65 days later from that first point, then you had this pretty significant move. So measuring it from the top, about 90 days, you got the other top here in about December there. So roughly around that sort of 13-week period, you can see from the tops here of Solana versus BTC, you had about a 16-week move to the downside, and then the move back up. So when I said in the intro, there is some downside here, or there's downside for the chart, but you're going to need some patience. That's the patience that I'm talking about there. Here was sort of that 60 odd days. Solana continuing to come down. If you look at it in terms of time from this low, it kept going, so you had to weather some more downside, and then it rise back up and break that next top. That took around that, again, 90 odd days. So if you've got that patience in you and you can wait that time out, even if you see your markets going against you, then that next stage, if it's going to repeat similarly to last time, that's the point that can lead to those significant gains to the upside, where we're looking at here through January, February, March. You know, that last time was roughly 700%, but there are no guarantees that you're going to see another mega boom like you saw last time. For all we know, you're going to see a correction here for a lot longer to continue out that period before you see another move to the upside. So if you don't have that patience, it could be a little bit daunting over the next period, because we've already seen significant weeks up. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to the upside. So if you're asking the question, when did alt season start? Well, you can kind of point back to the election day of November being about 5-6 weeks ago, because you've already seen significant moves to the upside. So there is still some patience to be had. There's probably, just according to at least one data point last cycle, still some more upside to be had. But don't fool yourself and think that the bull market starts from here. We've already seen at least that first 5 weeks to the upside. And for those that were in the markets in 2023, you had that breakout period in October of 2023. So including that from this low point to the current time, current week, you're at 62 weeks since that particular low as well. So the bull market has already been going on, and these are those final stages. Now, I get it. Most people probably just want to hear the hopium, and they just want to hear that the market's always going to go up. It looks like the markets still have more time left in them to go up. Even if there are corrections along the way, the corrections should be enough to scare a lot of people out to think that it is over. They leave, they go do something else because they think it's all over. And then, of course, it pumps again. They come back and they screw the end up yet again. So I'm just trying to give you that little bit of hopium, but keep us level-headed because of the timing of how long things have already been running for. Now, there's one more piece of hopium to this chart. Some great news. But before I hit that, we've got 20 weeks to the upside. Then you have this next period here. That period is far more tricky to be trading between alts and Bitcoin, because you can see there's just not as much of a gap between the low and the high. So the middle section is far more tricky. That time frame was roughly, that high to this next high point, 79 weeks. And within that period, you also saw Bitcoin come crashing down, and alts were also crashing down through that period. We know Bitcoin topped in November of 2021. So around this period here, alts took off, and then everything basically was rotating on the way down. And so when we take a look at where we currently are, so the hopium piece, you've got this nice move out. This could potentially be that overbalance in price. So you've got this big move out to the upside, and then we're just looking for that overbalance in time. So this to hold up and not break this low. Now, I've used overbalance in time and price many times on the channel successfully. The most recent time was around here at this warning video. It's actually a little bit earlier. It was in September when the price ran up to $66,000 because you had an overbalance in price and in time. That was the biggest move to the upside with the longest amount of time that Bitcoin had seen through this entire correction. And that was one of our key signals to say, well, it's probably likely that this correction is over. We don't know for sure, but at least you've got a very big sign here to say that you've got longer to the upside in time and bigger in price, which means there's more demand than there is supply coming onto the market. And that, of course, needs some patience and then leads to a big pump after that. So this could be one of those phases beginning right now for altcoins. If it is the case, have patience. And if you've got the patience, well, then there could be a short period to be making some significant money. Maybe that's taking its opium. Maybe you think it's a little bit dire and this thing can go on forever. I just want to keep myself level-headed, and hopefully you guys as well. If that helps, let me know. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Links in the video description for TIA Premium. And for your bonuses with Bybit, you can go get it yourself a crypto debit card to go and spend those gains once you guys get them on board. Thanks again. I'll see you back here at the next video. Until then, take care and peace out.